You fire off the same refactor job in Cursor and Claude Code, and one of them rewrites 3 files you didn't ask it to touch. Copilot just sits there waiting for your next keystroke. Cursor is the editor you drive. Claude Code is the agent you let loose. Copilot is the assistant that never leaves your IDE. One of these fits your workflow, and the others will cost you. Test 1. Cost. A lot of people pick a tool at the entry price, let an agentic loop run hot for a week, and then get a bill that's way bigger than the flat fee suggested. Claude Code's API pricing is the only one that actually exposes per token rates, which means it's the only one where your costs can scale up or down with your actual usage. I looked at entry-level pricing across all 3. Copilot Pro comes in at $10 a month. Cursor Pro and Claude Code Pro both land at $20. Go up a tier and Cursor's Ultra plan hits $200 a month, which is the priciest mid-tier option. Claude Code's API model on Sonnet 4.5 runs $3 per million input tokens and $15 per million output, so heavy agentic loops can run up real bills fast. Copilot takes cost, and it's not subtle. Half the entry price of the other 2 is a real gap. I thought Claude Code's transparent per-token model might make it the value pick for lighter users, but Copilot's flat rate just undercuts everyone, so Copilot goes on the board first. I know that cost gap because I've had the agentic loop bill shock myself, living inside these tools every single day. Drop a comment below if the token burn has ever caught you off guard. Test 2. Coding benchmark performance. The objection I hear all the time is that all 3 tools use GPT-4 class models, so how different can they really be? The SW Bench verified score is the closest thing to an honest answer we have, and the gap between the top and bottom of this list is so wide it should change which tool you pick today. I ran through the vendor-published SW Bench verified scores, and here's what actually came back. Claude Code's Sonnet 4.5 lands at 77.2%. Cursor's Composer on GPT-4 sits at 43.4%. Copilot on GPT-4 comes in at 28.8%. All 3 numbers are community reported from vendor blogs, so take them as directional, but the spread is enormous and consistent across sources. Claude Code wins coding benchmark performance, and the ROI story is right there in the numbers. Nearly twice the autonomous problem solving for the same entry price. One of the biggest problems I run into when using AI agents is turning their output into YouTube content I can actually use to market my product. That's why this video is sponsored by Subscriber, a tool that helps business owners connect their AI agents to YouTube and market their products without spending 10 hours every week creating content. You can connect Claude or ChatGPT directly to Subscriber. It then analyzes your business, website, and YouTube channel to help you create SEO-optimized video ideas, scripts, thumbnails, and even complete videos that actually match your brand. What I like most is that every week, Subscriber gives me a list of high-potential video ideas I can immediately execute, and it can even help edit videos for me, with or without my face, including videos like the one you're watching right now. It's easy to get started, and you can try Subscriber for free using the link in the description below. Now back to the video. I thought Cursor would be closer given its polish, but the underlying model gap is just too wide, so Claude Code gets on the board, and we're tied 1-1. Test 3. Speed. My objection going in was, if one tool is nearly twice as smart on benchmarks, does raw latency even matter? The answer is yes, because 150 milliseconds versus 200 milliseconds on inline completions is the difference between a tool that feels like autocomplete and one that feels like it's thinking, and that friction adds up across a full day of coding. I had to run this one twice because the speed comparison is genuinely apples to oranges. Cursor's tab hits 150 median latency for inline completions. Copilot sits at 200 milli for the same metric. Claude Code doesn't publish an inline completion number because it's a terminal agent, not an autocomplete tool, and its 1.2 second time to first token is for a much more complex agentic operation, so you're comparing a sports car to a truck. Cursor takes speed because 150 ms inline completions beat Copilot's 200 millimeters, and Claude Code simply doesn't compete in this category, being a different kind of tool entirely. That puts all 3 at 1 point each, so the next 2 tests are where this actually gets decided. So all 3 tools are tied right now, which means the context and output limits test is about to do a lot of work. If you're running multi-file refactors or big codebases, that test decides whether the benchmark gap actually translates to real-world output, and the deployment test after it could change which tool even fits your setup. Test 4, context and output limits. The number that matters here is 4096 tokens, because that's the output ceiling where a tool cuts you off mid-refactor and forces you to reprompt. If you're editing a big service layer across multiple files, hitting that ceiling mid-pass means broken diffs and a lot of manual cleanup that wipes out whatever speed advantage you thought you had. Watch what happens when you line up the numbers. Cursor and Claude Code both carry a 200K token context window, so they're matched there. Copilot caps at 128K, which is a real constraint on big code bases. But on output tokens per response, Claude Code doubles the field. 8,192 tokens versus 4,096 for both Cursor and Copilot, meaning Claude Code can ship a much larger single-pass edit without cutting you off. Now, Cursor and Claude Code are genuinely matched on context window size, so the win here is really about output tokens, not raw context. That said, the output limit is the more painful constraint in practice, because you feel a truncated response immediately, while a context limit only bites on unusually large code bases. The decisive edge goes to Claude Code. Claude Code takes context and output limits, because 8,182 output tokens versus 4,096 is a real doubling that changes what one prompt can accomplish on a big refactor. I thought the context window would be the deciding factor going in, but the output limit is the one that actually bites you in production, and that puts Claude Code ahead 2-1. Test 5. Deployment and modality. The objection a lot of people have going in is that all three tools support text and image input. So what's really different? The answer is where they live. Cursor is a full IDE replacement. Claude Code is strictly terminal native, no GUI at all. Copilot spans VS Code, JetBrains, and CLI, and where a tool lives determines whether it even fits your current setup. I looked at what each tool actually supports. Cursor is a VS Code fork with a full GUI, visual debugging, and cloud service backing. Claude Code is terminal only, no desktop IDE at all. So if you need a mouse-driven workflow, it's a non-starter. Copilot is the most portable of the three, running as an extension in VS Code, JetBrains, and a CLI, which means it fits into whatever environment you're already in. All three tools support text and image input, so on raw modality, they're matched. The real differentiator is the deployment surface. Cursor wins on IDE experience. Claude Code wins on autonomous terminal execution, and Copilot wins on portability. No single tool dominates across all three axes, so the honest call here is that your workflow determines the winner. Deployment and modality is a tie because each tool genuinely owns a different surface and none of them loses on their home turf. So the final score lands at Claude Code 2, Cursor 1, Copilot 1, with 1 tied. Cursor wins on 3 things. Inline completion speed. 100 FD's median latency is the fastest of the 3, and it shows in how the editor feels when you're typing. The full IDE experience with visual debugging and mouse-driven control that Claude Code simply doesn't have. And a 200K context window that matches Claude Code and leaves Copilot behind. Claude Code wins on 3 things. SWE bench at 77.2% for Sonnet 4.5, which is nearly twice Cursor's score and almost 3 times Copilot's 28.8%. Then 8,192 output tokens per response, double what the other two allow. An autonomous execution where you describe an outcome and it plans and edits across files without you touching the keyboard again. Copilot wins on 3 things. The cheapest entry at $10 a month Pro, half the price of the other two. The most portable deployment, VS Code, JetBrains, and CLI, so it fits into your existing setup without switching editors. And the lowest barrier to adoption if you're already a GitHub user, because it's already in your workflow. If you want the most capable agent and you're comfortable in the terminal, Claude Code wins, full stop. That SWE bench score is the number that matters. If you want hands-on IDE control with the fastest completions, go Cursor. And if a low monthly rate and 0 workflow disruption is the priority, Copilot is your pick. One thing the docs don't flag, Claude Code's agentic loop has no built-in scope guard by default, so it'll edit files outside your intended directory if the task reasoning leads it there. You have to set explicit path constraints in your prompt or config, or you'll find it touching production files you didn't mean to include. Cursor's IDE boundary naturally prevents that. If the cost question is still on your mind, I went deep on a similar pricing battle in the DeepSeek R1 versus ChatGPT video, which is called DeepSeek R1 versus ChatGPT, which is cheaper, and it's worth watching. back to back with this one because the per token math works out in a way that'll probably change how you think about flat fee plans.